paper, this is an absolute banger. Coming up this weekend at featherweight, we have Brazil's Ricardo Ramos taking on Beloit, Quebec, Canada's own Charles Jourdain. So Matt, I'm going to start this video off in a different way. For Ricardo Ramos, if you were his friend, and you decided, you know what? We got to sit down. We got to enjoy this autumn, the colors of the trees, the pumpkin spice that's out there. You grab yourself a nice latte. You sit down with your buddy Ricardo, and you ponder life. You put your knee up. People can't see it, but you put your knee up. You're sitting there, and you go, Ricardo, I got a question, though, about your career. Just quick. I want to broach the subject.
Could you throw more spit in perhaps?
What the f*** are you doing? For Ricardo Ramos, Matt, again, like the Joey Harrington jersey that I decided to wear today, this guy is an absolute electric factory when he's on the feet. And in certain fights, he's amazing with his takedowns. But the reason why I say, if you're Ramos' friend, like, I don't know how you broach the subject, because it's going to be awkward. But Ramos is one of those guys. He trained in Brazil. He trained in the States. But he's back in Brazil. Ramos, he fought on 2 looking for a fight episodes.
He's back in Brazil sounds like a reality show.
The Minneapolis episode that had Nick the Tooth. I don't know why I said Minneapolis, like I'm from the Midwest myself, but Minneapolis. And then, of course, the Dana White's looking for a fight in Maine, where they made
Nick the Tooth,
where they made lobster rolls, and there was a knock 'em up. What was it? A crash derby with the cars. Ramos gets a win on both of those episodes. Or sorry, loses the first one, and then he gets a win in Maine. So Ramos is in the UFC. For Ramos, I mean, an awesome win over Amin Zahabi. The double spinning back fist.
So nice.
He had an amazing performance with his wrestling way back against Bill Algeo. Had a bunch of takedowns in that one. Performance bonus over Eduardo Garagori. But then where it gets squirrely. He lost the fight where he struggled in the grappling against Zuba. Everybody loved him at AKA. Zuba. Daniel Cormier always talked about him so glowingly. Zubair Tukhugov. And Ramos was supposed to fight against Austin Lingo earlier on this year. And you might go, well, Craig, this is a featherweight fight. Ricardo Ramos is a featherweight. Yeah. But you see the graphic there? He weighed 154 pounds for a featherweight fight. For a featherweight fight.
You like the Celtics, right? He's Aaron Naismith.
I like
Ricardo. Every time you believe in him, he comes up short. But guess what? When you sell your stock, he's going to prove you wrong.
Ramos is young. He's no longer training at Team Alpha Male. That's fine.
But
he's training back home in Brazil.
That's fair to say. He's had quite a few fights at this stage of his
20 pro
career.
fights. So for Ramos, I don't know what to think anymore. The book's out. For Charles Jourdain, for the Americans that are out there, again, I get it. But guess what? You know what? I brought a prop for you guys for this week. Matt, in Quebec, Bad Monkey popcorn is everywhere. And there's a restaurant that's a chain, and it's only in Quebec. It's like your Boston Pizza, if you're an American, like your Applebee's or whatever. It's called La Cage au Spa.
I know that.
Or if you're an American and you read it, you might go, LA Cage Auxiliary Sports? Yeah, maybe. But guess what? You know what they make? They make Côte Levée popcorn. That's ribs popcorn. So Matt, this fight for me, it's a pot and popcorn fight. That's why I bring this in front of you today. But for Jourdain, his last time out, you can't draw a lot from it because he's taking on Chrome Gracie. He played that, well, when the fight went down to the mat, he put the phone up to his ear, he held it tight, and he didn't take that call. He just let it ring. And Jourdain was able to get the decision win out there. He struggled with the grappling of Shane Burgos. But you look at the fights that Jourdain's able to win. I mean, the marquee win being, I would say, Andre Ewell with the kicks, with the aggression at the end of it. But when you look at this one on paper, it's an awesome fight. Both guys are good strikers. When the ball's in their court, they can grapple. Jourdain, I would say, the takedown defense is always a concern. But Ramos, you can pick on some of those fights. The only X factor that I can come up with out of the back pocket is Ramos. He's already beaten a Canadian, so he's 1-0 against Canadians in his overall pro career.
We're all the same.
In the UFC, against a Montrealer. I know Beloit's not in Montreal, but it's right there, and that was a win over Amin Zahabi. So, Matt, I'm going to open up the pop and popcorn.
This is my big issue with the fight, and also why I'm very excited for this matchup, because I do think this is going to be a phenomenal fight, as I was worried Craig was going to elbow me in the face trying to open that popcorn. But both guys do have that version. It's like what I always say with Michael Olszewski. If I'm a used car salesman, I can make you believe he is a effing Ferrari, okay, that runs perfectly. If I'm a real honest guy, though, you know, it's probably not great. I can admit some faults in this car. It's probably got some body filler, you know. It's not all pristine. But When Charles Jourdain is able to fight a fight on his terms, switching between stances, using the plethora of kicks he does have at his availability, and that's something we talk about quite a bit. He is a bit of a different fighter between the two stances. There's a lot more body kicks from that southpaw position, but I think he's the more dangerous guy on the outside in this fight, at least in terms of punching power, because Ramos is a guy who does do very well up close. I know he's a long-rangey guy, but we do see that out of some fighters, like an Ignacio Bahamondes, for instance. There's some fighters who, when you look at, you assume they're really good from that long distance, but they get a lot of their solid work done from up close. And for Ramos, got great elbows. I like his uppercuts up the middle, too, and I do think that's going to allow him to at least mix in his own grappling a little bit more and make it more available to his skill set. But the problem I have with Jourdain in this matchup is, go back to, like, the Collier fight, for instance, right? Like, Joshua Collier is a good fighter, don't get me wrong, he's talented, but Ramos, I would say, is in a similar category, right? It's not like either guy is far better than the other. Ramos is able to mix his martial arts in a similar way that a Collier is, use his wrestling and disguise it with some of his strikes, and I think that that's a game plan he could follow to go out there and win the fight. The issue is, Jourdain will sometimes fight at that very high pace, right? He's going to go out there, try to beat you in the first round, and then we'll kind of wonder what's going to happen after. Can Jourdain pace himself enough against a guy who is so aggressive in Ramos?
And I think we've seen Jourdain pace himself, even
That's
in the
fair,
losses. Like, he was able to have the rally against Shane Burgos. He was able to get on the end of the punches against Nathaniel Wood. I guess that's a nice way to say it. And then the Kron Gracie fight is what it is. For Ramos, though, I keep talking about Team Alpha Male. He was in the room when Andre Fili was getting ready for Charles Jourdain. Wouldn't that be awesome if you were still training there with Andre Fili to kind of pick up on some of that stuff out of a win that Fili had? It was definitely a win, even though it was a split decision. If you look at this fight, it is incredibly close. Jourdain is slightly favored at the start of this one. Matt, we have a look at the Topology votes. I'm going to let you set them because I don't know where they are, but it feels like they're going to be wild.
65% Jourdain.
I'm going to say under. And it is... Yeah, see, 791 total votes, 78% for Charles Jourdain, 70% by decision for the 22% that have Ramos, 66% by decision. I think this is another one of those close fights, and if this one takes place on the feet, it's going to be fireworks while it lasts. So I do have a hard time with the pick. I'm eager to get your thoughts on this one. But for Ramos, it's like that old Katy Perry song. You're hot and you're cold. You're yes, then you're no. I don't know what we're going to get anymore.
You're up and you're down.
Kid's up and he's down, man.
Wrong when it's right, it's black when it's white. We fight, we break up, we kiss, we make up. And for Ricardo Ramos, I do think he has a great chance to win this matchup, don't get me wrong. I would say both guys, well, Jourdain, okay, let me shut the heck up. Jourdain's not the most well-rounded fighter, right? He does have defensive submissions in his repertoire, but he's not going to go out there and use a lot of the offensive wrestling, trying to get on top of you and Damian Maia submit you.
The perfect example there was against Lando Venata. We talked up his collegiate wrestling. He goes for a takedown, head in the guillotine.
Thing with Ramos, though, I do think his MMA game is a little bit more well-rounded. We will see the offensive wrestling a little bit more, even if he's doing well on the feet. I think he's going to have a hard time on the outside, though. I do think those light kicks of Jourdain are really going to add up on a guy like Ramos. And if Ramos can't get his respect, be it either with the wrestling, make that a big enough threat, or the power shots in his own right moving forward, I really do think he's going to struggle against some of the bigger shots coming back his way from a Jourdain.
You look at the losses that Ramos has, Zubair Takugov, the loss to Lerone Murphy where he gets finished, that loss that he had on looking for a fight where he got submitted. Ramos doing a lot more winning than he's losing. I do have Quebec's Charles Jourdain. This one, Matt, Bad Monkey Popcorn out of Quebec, they say, pour un putain, retirer du sac et chauffer 5 minutes à 250 degrees Fahrenheit.
You didn't do that, Craig. You just took them out of the bag.
Matt, they're telling you, toss that into the oven and just make it a little tender. Make it a little bit tender. Tender popcorn. You know what you want. Matt, when it does come down to this one, we're in agreement with Quebec's own Donnybrook's own Charles Jourdain coming out of that big-time gym with Ian McKillop. Matt, some big-time fights on this card. That co-main event, can't get enough of it in this division. Mitchell taking on Ige. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.